jump right in. I promise I'm going to make this visual, make it fun. We're going to tell some good stories. We're going to learn some really cool new things, all right? So measuring the pride and effect of LGBT events. You're going to see some new data you've never seen before. We're actually going to measure the Miami Pride Festival just from 6 weeks ago, and I'm going to show you the results of the community on that. It's really cool stuff. So that's me, looking like I'm going to sell you a house. And that is me 9 years ago, one of the best events I've ever been on, Floripa, Brazil for the IGLTA event. I had so much fun. I just loved it, and I love working with this community here. So right now, tourism. We are having our George Bailey moment, okay? The world got to see what it was like without us, and it sucked. It was bad. And so now we have that opportunity to really show that we can change our metrics. We're not hold to anything. So what do you do when you've been given this gift? We've been given a gift. We have new KPIs. We can show different things. It's not all based on bed tax and all that other stuff. We can really show our effect on the community. We have to tell a better story. We have to tell a better story about what we do. We're not telling the best story because our stories in the past, we didn't really back it up with enough data and enough insights to really show our total effect on the visitor economy. So these are some of the questions we're going to talk about today, and we're going to answer. What LGBTs drive the most visitation? Which one creates more a vibrant visitor economy? How do you distinct which ones are the best ones for the community? I'm going to show you examples of all of that. So first of all, I get asked this a lot. Who's Zartico? Zartico is a company, we've only been around 3 years. Last year there were 12 of us. This year there's 63 of us. We're 70% women. We have a woman CEO. We all come from the travel and tourism space. And we all got together because we got sick of every single year the same thing going, oh my God, I wish I could tell a better story other than bed tax and surveys. I really wish I could show everything that we do. I want to show our effect on the community and how many jobs we create and all that kind of stuff. So we got sick of waiting for another company to do it, so we created it. And that's what we did. And that's what Zartico is. It's an operating system, all right? So it's a thing, we surrounded the destination with everything, okay? That's the DMO. We surround it with the tech. So if you look at the tech, that's all of the data. That's all of the data that you have. There's the tech data, the Google Analytics, the bed tax data, your STR report, all that. And then we add 3 different data streams that you're going to see today. One of the data streams is your spend data. That is a credit card data. That is over a third of all the spending in your communities. Geolocation data, which is the movement around your community. And then event data. That's your Ticketmaster, your StubHub, all of that. We wrap that all up so you can tell a really incredible story about what's going on. And then we add people. If you just have the data, it's pie charts and bar graphs, and that's boring as hell. What you need to do is tell a story. That's what I'm going to share with you today, stories from the data. That's an insight. An insight are those little nuggets of information, they're little data pieces, right? Sometimes we have too many insights, but not enough outcomes. An outcome is the actual consequence on a destination. Give you an example. All right, Myrtle Beach. They have this country music festival every year, and they hate it. The residents hate it. People just get drunk. It's loud and that. They were going to cancel it. They were going to cancel the $300,000 investment in this festival. They didn't want it. But then we took a look at the data, and the actual insight is those people come back a lot. So if you cut off that festival, they might not come back those other 3 to 4 times, and that's a huge way to lose money for the community. So the outcome? Instead of canceling the festival, they recognized it, they put more money into it, and created more festivals. That's an outcome on the community. This is a good one. Stockton. All of us have universities in their town. Stockton has Pacific University, and they found out that all the parents that come visit the students, they go to the university, and then they go to the Applebee's and the Outbacks. That's it. They weren't going to the downtown districts. They weren't going that. So now they partnered with the university to make the better experience for everyone involved. They're using that data to make sure that they actually get a better, vibrant economy. I like this one. This is using spend data. Visitors from Raleigh are the second highest spenders in the county. They found that out. They were like, this is so awesome. Raleigh people come spend money. Then we took a look at the data. They spend money on gas. That's it. It costs $90 to fill your tank or $80 to stay in a hotel. So they thought they were doing great. They're not spending money in the community. They're buying gas. So they moved all that money and moved it to other communities that they know they're going to spend money in their town. All right? Last one. I think you guys will like this one. Wyoming. They have this one senator that just wants to get rid of the tourism budget, wants to just get rid of it. He hates it. But then they just decided, let's do something. So that senator's from Sheridan County. They went and tracked a rodeo in Sheridan County and showed how many jobs were created, how much money came, how many people came in town, where they came from, and everything. Presented it to the senator's staff, turned them around. It's like, wow, I didn't realize that much was going on in my community. That is an outcome, all right? So now I'm going to tell you 3 quick stories. I think you're going to like these. One of them is over a pickleball tournament in Marco Island. All right? Now, it's a pickleball tournament, but it could be the gay games. It could be anything. Just take a look at the pickleball tournament and the effect on the community. The next one, I'm going to go back. The next one is the St. Patrick's Day in Savannah. And then the third one is the Miami Pride Festival that just happened. Some really cool insights that went on at that Pride Festival. So here's the pickleball tournament. Every year, Marco Island gets hit up for a $400,000 tab from this pickleball tournament that comes in town and says, we're going to bring in 35,000 people, and everyone's going to love it, and they're going to fill your restaurants and that. And they're like, oh my God, are they just doing that? I don't even know. Who watches pickleball? Why am I investing in this stupid tournament? So we decided to take a look at all the data from the tournament. Actually, it was some pretty interesting stuff. 63% were visitors. 63% came in town for this pickleball tournament, all right? 37% were locals. Out of the visitors, 71% were out of state. So that surprised the hell out of them. It surprised the hell out of me, too. I was like, wow, that's a lot of people out of state coming to play pickleball. And look at the origin markets. New York, Boston, Chicago, Detroit. Marco Island doesn't spend any money in those markets. They don't have the money, but Visit Florida does. So that's some really cool insights to show people are coming from these top markets and coming down here. Now this was another thing. The top blue line, those are the visitors coming into for the tournament into Marco Island. The underneath line stays flat. Why do you think that is? Those are the residents. They weren't going to watch the games, they were working the tournament. So they're saying all this great stuff's going on, and they found out they're not doing anything, they're just watching the games. But then when you look at this is the cross visitation, that's where the tournament is, right? The visitors that came into town that went there, we can then target them and see where they go around the community. They went around a lot. They went and visited all the restaurants, all the hotels, all of that. This is movement. So these are the people that went to the pickleball tournament. When you see the white, that means it's highly concentrated. So when they went to the tournament, they went out. The interesting thing is, at 8 o'clock, they stopped going out. They went to dinner early, went to bed, because they're all playing pickleball. They're not out drinking and spending that money, so it's a different kind of visitor. Now, if you look at the actual in-state visitors, they go to the tournament and go home. That's what blue is. So when you look at their movement, you see them coming to the tournament, and then you see the highway up there. They leave. So anybody from the state of Florida is not even going. So now they know this about this dang tournament, which is really, really cool. Just focus on the last thing. They are so much better positioned now with this kind of data. So anybody that tries to tell them about it, any kind of thing, they're like, nope, I got the data to prove I'm not investing in this, or I'm going to increase my investment in it. All right? Cool stuff. I love this one. Who's been to Savannah for St. Patrick's Day? Anybody? All right. So Savannah spending millions of dollars a year on the St. Patrick's Day parade. Police protection, porta potties, all of that. And they are busy as hell the weekend before and the weekend after. They're like, why am I spending so much money on this St. Patrick's Day parade? People just come here and get drunk. My restaurant's shut down. I want to see if it's even worth our time. I don't care how busy it is. I don't blame them. So we took a look at it just this year, all right? There are many sides to the parade. There's kind of the people that wake up in the morning, go to church, and then there's, celebrate the actual St. Patrick. People go to the parade. And then it's debauchery. So you have the parade, people take a 6-hour nap, and then they just sit around downstairs and just drink a lot of canned beer. It is what it is. That's the tournament. You could say this about possibly Mardi Gras or anything. So we took a look at it. They wanted to find out, basically, do we invest in this thing anymore? Do we do it? I want to justify that. So let's take a look at the results. There were 2 busy weekends. Those are the dates right there. Both were on a Thursday. One was the St. Patrick's Day Festival. The second one was a music festival. They only invest $100,000 in the music festival, but almost $8 million in the St. Patrick's Day Festival, and it's the same amount of people. So let's take a look at these 2 festivals. I always want to see this. The similarities. All right, same amount of visitors for each one. All right, so there's a high number of residents that go to these things, and a big number of visitors that come. Same numbers. Take a look at how many spent the night. Actually, more people, just a bit, stayed overnight from the music festival than stayed overnight from the St. Patrick's Day Festival. It's very similar there. They went to the same places, same things you always do in Savannah. You go on River Street, do a cable car, go to the airport, that kind of thing. And they went to the same hotels. I thought there might be a difference in hotels stayed. There was no difference. But here are the differences, all right? So we're talking the same amount of people, same Thursday. What did they do differently? The music festival people went all around the city, way more than the St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's people just stayed downtown and just drank beer and hung out, you know? The The other people went around, and that's what Savannah wants. They're trying to spread people around their community. Also, they spent more. Spent more on accommodations, they spent more on food, they spent more on retail, they spent more on everything more than the St. Patrick's Day visitor. This is a visitor movement of the day of St. Patrick's Day, all right? So when you see the red, those are the visitors, and the blue are the residents, and the white arrow, that's the timeline. You're gonna show it. That's dinner time. So ready? Wait, go back. Should be playing. Not playing? Anyway, there's a lot of movement, people going downtown, and then at 8 o'clock, everyone goes home because they've been drinking beer all day and all the restaurants closed because they don't want to be a public bathroom. So that's it. So they stopped. You take a look at side-by-side comparisons of downtown River Street. That's dinner time on St. Patrick's Day, and that's dinner time April 7th. All those people are out enjoying dinner and spending more money. 50% increase in spending accommodations. So instead of passing out in their hotel, they're going to dinner at the steakhouse. Increase in spending, increase everywhere on rental cars and mom and pop shops, everything. So now Savannah has this information comparing the two. What would you do? So they're gonna look at a few more festivals and then just take a look at it and then go to their board and go to the, all the local government and the mayor and say, we're not investing this much. We're only gonna do this till 9 o'clock, then you're on your own. So that's most likely what they're going to do. They have the data to back it up. All right, last one, guys. This is brand new. No one's ever seen this before, except my wife, who I showed this to last night. So that's it. So this is the Miami Beach Pride Parade that just happened a few weeks ago. Just give you a little recount history. April 7th was the all-time high, 2019. Canceled in 20, tried it again last year, moved the dates, and then this year just happened a few weeks ago. Let's take a look at the differences around the Pride Parade. It happened right here. So that's not, it wasn't a parade, it's a festival. So right here, so it's a lot. I couldn't really do one point of interest, so I did a bunch. It was Muscle Beach, some of the hotels, some of the clubs, some of the bars, and we tracked all the movement during those days that people went to the Pride Festival. Here's what we saw. This is great. 2021, it was down. 2022 is up 103% from the year before, and it actually was even up more than the highest of 2019. More people going to Pride than they've ever seen ever in the past. This is what's really cool. Take a look at the out-of-state visitors. You have more out-of-state visitors coming to Miami Pride than their biggest year. It's up to 82%. That's fantastic. So not just people from in-state going, you wouldn't expect that, but that's what you're seeing. And take a look at the differences. So we took a look at the biggest markets. The top market in New York is down, which is okay, because they're actually up. If you look, 2019, the 10 markets accounted for 50%. This year, it's 42%, meaning a more diverse group of people are coming to Miami from all around the country, not just their top markets in the past. That's fantastic for just the LGBTQ plus community, showing that many more people are willing to travel and do stuff. Want to take a look at Washington, D.C. One of the biggest increases in the Washington, D.C. LGBT traveler is really growing. Right here, overnight visitation increased, all right, from there, which I think is awesome. So people are staying even more overnight. Let's see here. Where they went overnight, so the close by markets stayed at those hotels. The other people from New York and Chicago stayed at different hotels. All right, so they did that a little differently. Now let's talk about where they moved around. I think you're really gonna enjoy this. Both in-state and out-of-state. This is one of the biggest things I've ever seen. 2019 shows the movement. Look how much more they're exploring in 2022. They're going everywhere. So those are movements from the festival out there. So we tracked it. They went there. Where did they go afterwards? That is where they went. That is some of the biggest movement change I've ever seen for a festival. Look at this. This is really cool. This is, we did the POI just over food and restaurants. They're exploring more now over food than they did 2019. So people are going and doing different things around Miami that go to Pride. This is the out-of-state markets. The biggest movement, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. came down in bigger numbers. They spent more and they traveled more than the New York market, which is really cool. So this is just sort of the share of it. We can take a look at everything based on what they spent money on. Increases in accommodations, food, outdoor retail, and transportation. No really big surprise, no big thing, except for accommodations. They're spending more on accommodations. I like this. This is Friday night. So the residents didn't do much. They went home. They went to the festival and went home. The out-of-state visitors increased and went everywhere, which is great. So we saw the people come from out of state and traveled all around on that Friday night. Chicago moved the least. They didn't go anywhere. You know why? Anybody? Any ideas? They flew. So a lot of the other markets, New York and Atlanta, drove, so they had their cars. So that's an interesting thing. So if they drove, they can also pack groceries and stuff compared to if they fly and go to restaurants. So just neat little things there. The biggest movement, DC. Look at the difference between now the DC visitor 2019. Now they're exploring more north in Miami than they did in the past. So the DC visitors are spending more and going all over the place. That's interesting. Maybe they just weren't really happy about everything that was going on in DC the past few years and they couldn't wait to get out. I don't know, but I think it's great. And there's what they spent. This is my last stuff. I'm gonna show you how they spent money. All right, we took a look at this. So when you see transportation in the orange, that's gas. So a lot of money on gas, big numbers on accommodations and food. These are people that went to the festival. This is just such a great way to show how much an LGBT plus festival actually affects the economy when you can track the spend after that. Look at these two markets. Now put your marketing hats on, guys. If you're gonna market and you have $100,000 to spend in New York or $100,000 to spend in DC, what do? So look at the accommodations. New Yorkers spend more money on accommodations, but DC spends a ton more money on food. But look at gas. 15% is spent on gas. That doesn't affect the visitor economy at all. They're just buying gas. So 85%, 1% of DC. So 99% of a DC visitor to that festival went to the visitor economy. They're way more valuable, all right? So that's the kind of data you can look at. This is my final slide. I love this right here. This is the week before the Pride Festival and the Pride Festival week. I wanted to see how it did. And then I also compared it with 2019. Everything was up over 2019, but there wasn't a really big shift from the week prior. There wasn't, except when you look at attractions. And I went back and looked. There were so many paid ticketed events the week before the Pride Festival. Miami Heat was in town, the Marlins were in town, there was a beer festival, there was over 30 ticketed events going on in Miami. And still the Pride Festival drew more money and more people than all those ticketed events. That's awesome. So these are different ways, and I hope this was helpful. We have new tools, okay? We have new data, we've got new credit card data, we've got movement data that we can really justify what we do. And hopefully you found that helpful. These are what things are doing. So if you have a Pride Festival coming up, anything like that, track it, get better answers to your questions, and tell better stories. Thank you.
Wow.
David wants me to sit down and answer some questions.
Yeah, you're
sorry. The food's like right there for you, too.
That's right.
It's a tease.
Just a couple of real quick, because we are between us and lunch. I love those. I particularly love the Miami one. Ted, how much of that can you say is due to pent-up demand that is being expressed right now, and it might tank in the future? Did that come into play?
We can't really do it on pent-up demand. We can do year-over-year comparisons like we showed.
Okay.
So we can see that if you looked at any other community, like I showed you, DC's up, New York's down. How much that is pent-up demand based on a recall survey is not us. What we have is just completely transparent transactional movement data. So for us, it could be more assumed if you do that.
So if you did the next 3 years in a row
Yep.
and you saw a slight decline, you might ascribe that to, well, there was a lot of pent-up demand the first year in travel, and now we're getting to other levels. Secondly, we talk about events as episodic things, and a lot of the DMOs here work with professional sports teams, and those are events. They're events that happen over and over and over again. Your work in that field, for example, the Tampa Bay Rays over in St. Pete, there's been discussions for years about what to do about them and their overall economic impact into the city. I know in that city when they play Boston or when they play New York, there's swells, and then when they play other teams, they don't. Do you do any work on professional sports teams in treating a season as an event?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we do that even to a step further where we can see if they have like a concert planned that night afterwards, like at Fenway Park or something. So for Salt Lake City, we just tracked, they had the NBA All-Star game this year. They were able to show when they had the All-Star game, people that went to that game or went downtown around that game spent 2.5 times more money than people that didn't go to that game. And they also went out to the Valley. So that game was actually not only important for downtown Salt Lake, they actually went out into the Valley and spent more money there too. So that's how they use that information.
And I liked on that last slide, you talked about transportation is a net nothing, right, for a local economy. If you're buying gas, you're buying gas.
Right.
It really is not something that stimulates the economy in any certain way. And that was just an insight for me, because I think about that a lot, and I think of how many taxes are baked into the price of gas and how inflated it is unnaturally as it is right now, because they can. They're charging us however much we want. So it's something that, it goes into different pockets, I guess is what I'm saying, than locals. For this group, and for what we talked about yesterday and this morning, and this might be a little bit off of your wheelhouse here, but when we talk about getting the LGBTQ traveler and tracking the LGBTQ economic spend and the economic impact of that as a subset, because you can't ask someone if they're gay when they check in. Talk to me a little bit about how you might be able to help any destination or any organization refine how they look at the LGBTQ market.
Great question. Another thing that we can do as well, and Sonia, Bradley, and I were talking about that too. Sacramento's a client. They have a list of over 80 LGBTQ-owned shops, restaurants, and that we can code and just see, did they go to those restaurants? Did people come in town from the airport? And what time of year are those restaurants and shops visited the most? And where do they spend? That is a way that you can start tracking too. I wanted to do that for Miami, but I only had a few days to put it together. But that is a way that you can really start seeing that, because you're right, you can't ask like, are you gay, are you doing this? But we can see where they frequent. DC has the Black History Museum, and they have 50 different black restaurants and own things. Elliot wants to see how many people go there, actually support the other things. They didn't. And he was like, darn it. But actually gave some reason to have like, I need to cross-market and actually market that better and do that. So that is a way that you can use this kind of data to help do those kind of things.
And this data, those points we saw, this is scrubbed cell phone data, correct? Is that how you do this?
It is. No, it's based on apps. So if they open an app when they're in town. So it's usually around 10 to 15% of all the visitors there when you see the geolocation movement. The spend data is about 35% of all the spend, which is a lot. And one thing we get really bad at as an industry, guys, we're terrible at sample size. We discredit ourselves and we're like, we're seeing 10%. You know what the sample size is for people putting drugs out in pharmaceuticals? It's like 1,000 people they test and they put drugs out. We're talking millions of people that we're tracking, and we don't do a good enough job of making that case for ourselves.
How many? What was the sample size there?
Right, for us,
yeah.
I mean, for that turn, there was 170,000 visitors, so we tracked 20,000 people moving around Miami.
Wow.
That's a big number. And if we just surveyed 500, that does not tell the story. All right?
So your information can be used to prove and disprove, right?
Yeah.
It can be used to, hey, let's support this event, or hey, we finally need a day. I couldn't believe that Savannah example. How much did they spend on St. Patrick's?
The whole city, it costs, I think, don't quote me too much, but it's anywhere between 5 and 7. Wow. It's changed a little bit. And that's they have to bring in so many police to protect the community. They have porta potties, all of that. And then the restaurants hate it because it become a public bathroom.
Well, Ted, I'm not going to hold you to this, but I do want to get your fun fact out, and thank you for doing this. I love the information. I saw everyone taking notes here too. This is exactly what this group needs. We're always justifying our spend, whether it's in a public organization or private. You have to be able to make your business case at the end of the day. By way of unusual talents, Ted said that in 30 seconds, he can count the number of chairs and tables in a restaurant, configure the average check for patrons, multiply by days of the year, and estimate that restaurant's annual sales. So that's quite a skill there, and I'm sure you can do that, right?
It's 140 seats in here. Depends on how many times we sit that and how many times they have conferences here, and I can estimate the whole conference. It's a weird Rain Man thing. It drives my wife crazy.
I'm going to give it up for Ted Sullivan, the CMO of Zartico. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, guys.